Hey y'all, Uncle Jesse here. Today we're going to the pomelo tree and pick a pomelo. It's kind of like a grapefruit in America, but a little different. It's similar taste, but not quite. So let's go to the pomelo tree and I'll show you how we eat pomelos here in the Philippines. Follow me. I think we got a good candidate. Where was it? Right here. And this is a pomelo. And this is a dragon fruit. See any dragon fruit blooms, baby?
No.
Really? We got dragon fruit? Oh, yeah. Zoom in on it. We'll be tasting one of them later. I wish we had a bloom. Those blooms are so beautiful. Wow, there's a few dragon fruit up there. Okay, right now, let's focus on the pomelo. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's cut this bad boy open and see what it is. Smells just like a grapefruit. But that's what it looks like. It's a lovely citrus fruit, and it's really, really good for you. As far as citrus fruits go, you just pick the seeds out and pull the meat. You don't want to get none of the, sometimes it's easier to do it with your fingers. You don't want to get none of the skin in there or the rind. It's kind of bitter, make it bitter tasting. Just like a grapefruit. Now this is the way I like to slice it down this inner part here. Makes it easier to get into because they can be a little tough to get into. Pretty vibrant plant here. Grows into a great big beautiful shade tree. And this pomelo will produce these fruit year round. It's never ending. So if you're here in the Philippines and you have a pomelo tree, you pretty much can't go hungry. You always got fruit to eat. It gets a little messy, but you can get it out of there. Okay, this is what it looks like once you get it all shelled out. So we're going to pause the video a minute, and then we're going to come back when we got this pomelo shelled out, and we're going to show you the ingredients we put in it. Alright guys, we're back. This is what the pomelo looks like when you shell it out. It looks almost exactly like a grapefruit. Tastes fairly similar to a grapefruit. Okay, she's going to add a few chili flakes.
That's enough.
That's enough, babe. Little bit of black pepper. That's enough.
Salt.
A little bit of salt. Pinch of salt. Okay. Now do your fish sauce. And this is, say it how you say it, baby?
Patis.
Patis. It's fish sauce. And
Vinegar.
coconut vinegar.
Taste this.
Mix it up real good. Mix it up real good. Mix it up real good. Now, when I first come here, and she made this for me, because I never had it in my entire life. I didn't know what a pomelo was. I didn't know what a pomelo tree was or anything. I'd never seen that before. They may have them in South Florida, but I didn't see any in Georgia growing up. I didn't know what it was till I came here to the Philippines. So, that's I would call it a pomelo salad. Salad. And it's really good. It's sour, sweet, salty, everything. Is it good, baby? Is it perfect? Let me have a try.
More. Not spicy enough.
Oh.
Yummy.
Got that good vinegar kick. It got sweet, salty, sour. Man, that is delicious. And if you're having stomach trouble, constipation, or anything like that, that coconut vinegar has the enzymes to help your stomach get back together. It'll also, the way she's got this seasoned up with this pomelo, it'll get you going again, trust me. It's very tasty. Very tasty. I love it. I eat it 3 times a week at least because it's just that good. It's delicious. And so I hope you enjoyed our video. And keep watching the video. Might have a story time with Uncle Jesse. Let's see. Hi guys. We're going to do story time with Uncle Jesse. Now, I'm from South Georgia. And lived on a little country house with plantations all the way around us. And we worked on the farm time to time as kids. We pulled corn, we cut okra, we picked squash, beans, tomatoes, cropped tobacco. I hung tobacco in the tobacco barn. Raised horses, cows, hogs, chickens, guineas, ducks, geese, just about you name it, we had it. Goats, dogs, cats. Typical farm. We had everything. I used to ride and break horses in my younger years. Probably why I'm in such bad shape now. Anyway, story time with Uncle Jesse. My second wife, unbeknownst to me at the time, we were only married 3 years. She had Munchausen syndrome. So, any of you know what Munchausen syndrome is, look it up. It's Bruce Willis did a movie with a woman that had Munchausen syndrome in it. Something about I see dead people or something like that. Anyway, there was a skit in that movie with a woman that had Munchausen's. So we won't get into much of that backstory. You could just look it up for yourself or check it out. But anyway, my baby girl had already graduated high school and moved in with my daughter. My daughter had moved in with my sister. And my sister was the epitome of the Southern belle. She was, as you would see in the older movies, a perfect Southern belle girl. From South Georgia, grew up in South Georgia. Proper, she went to, you know, what do you call that? Prima donna school? I don't remember. Anyway, she was a proper Southern belle. Knew all her etiquette and everything. So when my daughter graduated high school, she was a little bit agitated with my ex-wife, my second wife, not her mother, but she was a little agitated with my second wife, and so she decided to move in with my sister. My sister's children were grown and moved off, so my daughter was 18 and moved in with her, and my sister taught her how to be a lady. But back to the story. So just me and my second wife at home. She was going through a custody battle with her two demon children. How she had custody of them, I never figured that one out. But anyway, you know, the courts in South Georgia. But her ex-husband had taken custody of the kids, and their kids was over at his house. It was just me and her at home, living in a big 4-bedroom house. And I had just got over a broken back with steel rods and severe back surgery and everything, and about 2 years previously. So I was on a lot of pain meds the past 2 years at this time. So I was oblivious to everything going on around me. I was like a walking, doped up zombie most of them 2 years. It took me a while to get off the pain meds. But so I had an old Jeep, 1994 Renegade, I believe it was. Cherokee or Renegade, I really don't remember. 4-wheel drive Jeep, regular Jeep, you know, 1994 model. And a friend of mine had a 1986 Jimmy, GMC Jimmy, 4-wheel drive with the big V6, which only had a few horsepower less than the 350 V8 at the time. But it had the big V6 in it, and it had, I believe, 700R transmission. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. With the 4-wheel drive transfer case and all, and the drivetrain was in perfect shape. But the Jimmy had been rolled and wrecked pretty bad. It was beyond repair, the body was. So we pulled the motor and transmission out of that, and my friends did most of the work. They helped me. I supervised. They put it in that Jeep for me. And I had everything going in that Jeep, and I had just got the Jeep road ready and had it tagged and insured. And at this point, I was getting around pretty good. We had no kids at home. I was having to put up with her crazy ass. And I was coming back to my senses, trying to get off the pain meds and trying to figure out what was going on around me. And she was giving me, I was having a bad day with her. A bad day. I was confused. I didn't know what was going on around me. It was just a bad day. And so I hadn't had a stiff drink in over 8 years at this point. And I hadn't smoked any marijuana in 3 or 4 years at this point. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to go get me a half pint of Southern Comfort and go by one of my friend's house and talk him out of a couple of joints, a couple of doobies we called it. And I'm going to go for a ride on the plantation in my Jeep since I got it together. And so I did that. I sneaked off from her and went up to the liquor store and got me a pint of Southern Comfort. Went by my buddy's house, picked me up a couple of hootenannies, a couple of doobie boys. I got back to the house and got me a cooler, got a little bit of ice in the glass. You know, got me some ice in the cooler and got me a little plastic glass to put in it. Set it all in the Jeep. I already had my pint Southern Comfort and my 2 doobies in there in the glove box. And I set my cooler in the back of my Jeep. And she said, where are you going? And for whatever reason, it just popped in my head, I'm going to find a UFO. And she said, oh, and you think I'm the crazy one. And she laughed and blah, ha, 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 you know. And I said, no, seriously. I got to go out to the plantation And I got me some Southern Comfort in a joint, and I'm going out to the plantation where it's nice and quiet, and I'm just going to sit out there and drink my pint of liquor and smoke my 2 doobies and just enjoy nature. And it was done by this time. It done got late afternoon, and it was nice and warm. It was, I don't know, mid-late summertime, you know, and it don't get dark in South Georgia in summertime to about 8 o'clock, 8:30, something like that. Towards 9 o'clock, it stays light pretty late. And by the time I had my misinfortunate argument with her, I said, to hell with it. I just get out of my way. I got to get away from you. So I went out, got in my Jeep, cranked it up, and before I could leave the yard, she done run out there and jumped in the Jeep. Now, it had no top on it. It was a Jeep. I didn't have a top on it. And it had the little half metal doors on it. If anybody's familiar with the Jeep, it had half metal doors on it. So she jumped over the door into the seat as I was pulling out of the driveway, and I didn't say nothing to her. I just kept going. I just hit the little dirt road and hauled ass. So here I am driving down the dirt road through the plantation. Get about 8 miles in the middle of the plantation, and I pull off to the side of the dirt road there in a little clear area. Kind of a sandy spot, but it was heavy packed. Hell, I was in a 4-wheel drive Jeep. I didn't care anyway. I pulled off to the side of the road, right down kind of in a gully. The road come up on a hill, and then it went down a little bit in a gully, and it was coming up on another hill. I pulled off to the right there and parked. It was just getting dusk dark at this time. So I sat there and I'm sipping on my Southern Comfort, hitting on my hootenanny. I got through hitting on my hootenanny. I leaned over and grabbed me a cigarette, and I looked up. And when I looked up, you know, I had a perfect view of the sky. The trees and forest was growed up on both sides of the road like this, dirt road out in the country. Some of the trees was growed overhanging the road, but we were in a spot where it was clear above the road. And you could just look up at the sky and see the beautiful sky, open sky, and all the stars and everything. And I noticed when I looked up, there was a star about that big around, and it was bright. And I looked up at it. At first, I was like, wow. I was like, oh, look at that. I took me another sip, lit me a cigarette. I said, you know, I told you I was coming out here to look for a UFO. She said, yeah, you told me that bullshit. I looked up again, and at first I thought I was looking at Mars. I thought the sun had done lit up Mars in the twilight, and the sun had just went down, and I thought I was looking at Mars. And I looked up, I said, see that big ass star right there? She said, yeah, I see it. I looked over at her in the Jeep. I said, that ain't a star. That's a UFO. Chi-chi. Hush. 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 Get up here and lay down. Hush. Where was I? Oh, yeah. I thought that was Mars up there. And I told her, I said, there's the UFO I come out here to look. They told me to come look for him. And she was like, oh, you full of shit. I don't believe none of that. I was like, let's keep an eye on it. So I kept sipping on my Southern Comfort. I sat there a little while, smoked me a couple cigarettes, and every now and then I'd look up at it. I'd notice it get a little bit bigger. And at this point I was like, oh, maybe it is a UFO. What in the world? Now I'd sip on my Southern Comfort. I reached over in my glove box, pulled out that second doobie. I was about halfway through that pint of Southern Comfort. I was feeling good. I fired up that second doobie. I was hitting on it a little bit. I'd hit on it a little bit. put it out in the ashtray. I was done finished the other one. At this point, I was feeling really good. I was stoned as hell, about half-assed drunk. I hit on that doobie and put it out in the ashtray, light me another cigarette. Keep looking up. Every time I'd look up, stand there and look at it, or sit there and look at it in that Jeep, looking at, keep getting bigger and bigger like this. That one, and it stayed in that one spot. It just kept getting a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, like it was coming closer. And I was like, I elbowed her. She said, "What?" I was like, look, keep your eye on it like I told you. I said, "It's coming." She said, "Ah, it does look like it's getting bigger." And so then, instead of her looking all around in the woods at every little noise that was going on, she started paying attention too. She kept looking up, looking at it, and it kept getting bigger. It kept getting bigger. It kept getting bigger. And now we talking about over a span of, I done drank a little over a half pint, or a little over a pint, a little over a half pint of Southern Comfort. I had a pint of Southern Comfort, and done smoked one Dubois, and was hitting on another one off and on in between my cigarette smoke, as this thing kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now you might say, "Oh, Uncle Jesse, you was just messed up. You was just seeing stuff. You was high. You was drunk. You know, on and on and on." But the truth of the matter was, she was sober. She didn't drink. She didn't smoke weed. She was just cuckoo, cuckoo. Anyway, Munchausen syndrome. So I was looking up, and by this point, it done got that big around. And she done got over here up against me, staring at it. She done got scared. And it kept getting closer, and it kept getting closer. And now this is a true story. And it kept getting closer. And so I finished off my final Southern Comfort and put my hootenanny out. And I got focused on it, because by this time it done got real big. And you could tell it was coming straight down from outer space. And it was coming really slow, like this, really slow. I would say over about almost an hour span. I sit there while I was drinking that Southern Comfort in the quiet. We didn't talk to one another, didn't say much of nothing. I was mad at her, actually. I was tired of her. And it was coming down. And I wasn't expecting it to, what I said earlier at the house about I'm going to look for a UFO, it just popped in my mind. You tell her you're going to look for a UFO. And that's what I did. And so it kept coming, and it got about this big around. And then, boom, there was 3 of them in a triangle. Like 2 bottom lights just lit up the same size as the big glowing ball. But it was in a triangle shape like that. And it was still coming, and all 3 of them were getting bigger and bigger and bigger in proportion to what the one at the top originally started out as, I thought, was Mars or Jupiter glowing in the sun, looking like a big glowing star. Kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it come to us. Now it was 3 in a triangle. And so by this point, I'm leaned way back looking at this, because it's taking up the whole skyline in between the rows of greenery and trees, and you can see that strip of sky above that dirt road. And it was just, you know, a regular old country dirt road. And you could see it, and it was as wide as the treetops coming down. It was that big. But it was still way up there. God knows how far away, but it was coming down. And soon as those side lights, which had done got yay big around by this point, started to stretch over the edges of the sides of the trees, it went poof, and they all 3 went together, and it popped out into this ginormous round ball of light. And when that happened, my ex-wife bailed from the Jeep, and I could hear her feet. She was kicking it up that dirt road back towards the pavement, back towards the house. And I was just froze listening to her run away. I mean, I couldn't move. I was like in a trance. I was just froze. Looking at this, I was in amazement. I was shocked. I'm surprised I didn't piss myself. But this ginormous ball of light just took an immediate left and was gone. And I turned back around and I screamed, "Where are you going? I told you I was going to show you a goddamn UFO." She was way down the road at this point. So I cranked up the Jeep, backed it up, turned around, went and picked her up, and we went back to the house. And that's a true story from Uncle Jesse. Good day.